to A Couple of Expats. I am Gabriella and this is John, and we are a couple living from the US, living in the Netherlands, and we are also a couple. So I usually lead this podcast, but we have a special topic that John has just been sitting on the edge of his seat waiting to discuss. So I am actually going to kick this podcast right back over to John. So take the floor.
All right. This week's episode is the skiing episode. So we'll talk all things skiing in Europe, and we'll talk about the comparisons, the differences, the tips and tricks, and then we'll go from there. But I think first, it's been a little bit since we've done our last podcast. We got a little busy. We were traveling and all that stuff. So any new things in the past 2 weeks, Gabriella?
Not necessarily for me, but I know you went to Norway it was a long holiday weekend. John had the whole weekend off, plus a few days. I did not. So he went and explored Oslo. Maybe you could speak about your experience in Norway.
Yeah, it was good. I think Oslo is really pretty, and it's pretty cool. There was like not that many old things there for an old city. Like I think all the old things are kind of outside the city, because like the city is actually like got a lot of really modern buildings and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I was expecting things to be a little bit older. I think a lot of doing like touristy things there, I think a lot of stuff is kind of like outside of Oslo a little bit. Like when you start doing like stuff in the forest and skiing and like all of that stuff, I think that's a little bit outside the city. So I think, the city is just like the hub, and then all the stuff outside of it is probably where all like the more adventurous stuff is. So
nice. Did you have a favorite part or favorite experience?
They had a museum there that was pretty cool. It was like the National Museum or something like that, but they had a lot of cool old Norwegian stuff there. They had like old chandeliers made out of like reindeer antlers, and they had the Scream. Everybody's seen the Scream like postcard and stuff, so that was there. They had like a Vincent van Gogh self-portrait there. I mean, we have that here, but they had good art and good old artifacts and stuff, so it was pretty cool.
Nice.
Did you do anything that long weekend?
I worked, but one cool thing we did right before then was attend a food festival called Rolling Kitchens. That's how you pronounce it in English. And it was really, really fun. Ton of vendors, pretty much all varieties, all different types of cuisine you could want. We probably had like 5 different types of cuisine in only a few hours. It was delicious. Weather was beautiful. It was out in Investor Park. And yeah, it's just a really good time. It was a 4-day festival, food festival. We went the first day, so I think it was a little less crowded than probably the peak weekend days. But yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, I went to that with Prima, and there was a lot of people there on a Saturday.
I'm pretty sure no one knows who Prima is.
It's my mom. Great lady, crazy. Anyways, I went there on a Saturday with my mom like 2 years ago, and it was like I was like, this is a proper food festival, but it was absolutely slammed. So I'm glad that we went like the first night, that Wednesday night that it opened, because the holiday on Thursday was Ascension Day, and then after that was the day after Ascension Day, which a lot of corporate companies give their employees the day off. But yeah, it was cool. There's always this one Jamaican jerk chicken place that it smells so good, and the smoke is really like you can smell like the barbecue from like so far away. Always smells really good. And there's that really good Moroccan place too that had like really good dishes. It's a whole ton of cuisines. There's a few Filipino places. They actually had a Filipino place with karaoke, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, John's half Filipino, so his mom's from the Philippines. So he really likes seeing the Philippine population represented.
Yeah. So yeah, we did that, and then I went to Norway, and then this past week we saw Joe Coy in Rotterdam, which was funny. His 2 opening acts were really funny as well. And then we went to Vorteren Island, which is like a little island outside of Amsterdam that has a cool summer restaurant, like in a glass like greenhouse type thing with a canopy for a roof, with like really good food. We had a 5-course meal and a wine pairing, and it was super tasty. Like all of it was really good. The island's super pretty. They also have a winter restaurant, which is in like the old military bunkers there, because it used to be like a fort for like protection of Amsterdam. And then in the winter, like they don't have that little like outdoor summer restaurant in like the greenhouse, so they do it in the winter in the bunker, and that was really cool. And then they just added like little cabins that you can stay the night there, which was really cool. And we're gonna go back in August. It was really, really neat.
Yeah. Happy birthday to John. That's why we went to celebrate his birthday.
Thank you.
And it was a really fun time, really good food. I think they grow a lot of the produce on the island. So it was all just really fresh and delicious.
Yeah, it was very fresh. They had a dish that they love potatoes here, but they had a salt cased potato, almost like a salt.
Like they do with fish. So a lot of times, like at some fancy restaurants, they'll bake the fish just like in patted salt all over the fish. And you don't actually eat the salt that crusts the fish, but it just keeps a lot of the moisture and gives it more flavor into the fish. So they did the same with a baked potato. One of the common dishes in the Netherlands is called stampot, which is pretty much potatoes mashed up with usually some form of meat, but you can literally mash anything up in it. So they presented their take on it, which was the baked potato in that salted crust, and then served with an egg and like some herbs. And then you basically just mix it all up together. And that was actually one of my favorite dishes from the whole evening. It was just really different, at least for me, from not being from the Netherlands, and really good. Simple, fresh, but very delicious.
Yeah. And then they had aubergine or eggplant, and then they had lamb, and then a raspberry crumble, and the raspberry or rhubarb crumble. And that was really, really good. And all the wines were very, very tasty. So overall, very good experience. We're so lucky because the boat leaves like 5 minutes away from our house on a bike. So
yeah, so you take a
really
boat.
Close.
They take you out on a boat to the island and provide some drinks and little hors d'oeuvre type things, like kind of like a charcuterie board. And then when they take you back from the island on the boat too, and that's all included in the one fee.
Yep,
which is really cool.
Cool. All right, so it's starting to get warm and nice here in the summer. Sunsets are like at like 10-ish, and it doesn't get dark till like 10:30-ish now. So we're almost at the peak. But figured now that ski season is mostly behind us for most of the ski resorts. I think Zermatt still has glacial skiing, and there's a few other places in Austria and Switzerland. But we figured now that the ski season's done, it's probably time to get ahead of it for next year and start planning your ski trip when the prices are still cheap and no one's really yet looking and all of that stuff. So, we figure we will talk about skiing today. So, I guess we'll start off with the first thing. I guess, Gabriella, like skiing in the US versus skiing in Europe. What do you notice as some major differences?
The biggest is the skiing culture. So it's very laid back and chill in Europe. Where in the US, everybody's fighting for first chair. You want to be the first one on the mountain, the last one off the mountain. Here, you get up when you get up. You go on the mountain, you ski, you take it easy, do a couple runs, go inside, get a drink. Doing a couple more runs, get a late lunch, a couple more runs, and then you're done for the day, and it's a pre-skiing. There's that big difference. And then there's not straight lodges here. It's very rare to find a true lodge. You'll see more restaurants just kind of planted all over the ski resorts. And then also a lot of the skiing, there's a ton of terrain. So we've done most of our skiing in Europe within the Alps. That's the primary skiing region that spans from France, goes through Switzerland into Austria. And that's kind of the main, and a little bit into northern Italy. Those are the main areas you're going to ski in. They're all beautiful, but they're also way above the tree line. So you're just skiing large open areas that is just like so vast and beautiful. And those are kind of the top three things I think that are significantly different. John, you're a much better skier and more intense skier than me, so I'm sure you have a lot to add to that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm much more intense, but
much more intense. I've been skiing
I like
for
the
a few years. You've been skiing all your life.
I like the Euro style skiing. I think the piece of like the first chair thing is just like also part of the price. Like, as much as we hate to deny it, like Vail companies and Altera are like destroying the ski industry because you either one have to get this like all year long pass for $1,000 or whatever, which is actually a good deal, but it gets a lot of people on the mountain, or you have to pay $250 a day plus rentals plus whatever. So there's an element of you needing to get your money's worth, right? And getting snow before it gets tracked out and beating the lines because of the crowding, because of the cheap season passes. But I mean, the cost here is just so much cheaper. And even some of the big resorts like Dolomiti Super Ski, Zermatt, those are the expensive ones, and they're like 72 euros a day. If you go to like places in like freaking Romania or Bulgaria or Georgia, it's like super, super cheap. So I think that plays a big role to it. And I think it's like with a lot of things in Europe, it really enables like families to really enjoy it. So like a lot of just people that like in the Netherlands that I work with, their like winter vacation is just skiing every year because they know like, hey, we're probably only going to get like 5-6 days a year. Let's just go to France and let's just have a good time and do it for that week. I mean, it's maybe a little bit of money to get there, but even still, flights aren't that bad. Hotels can be kind of expensive, and car rentals can be a little bit expensive, but the actual skiing itself, I think, is pretty cheap. In rentals, I think we've gotten rentals for you a couple of times, and it's like,
It's ridiculous.
we're like 75 euros, and he was like, oh, for the day. He's like, no, for 5.
Yeah, no, we were in
Italy.
And no, it was in France. In
No.
Maribel.
Well, it was both places. We did that one, and then we did the one in.
We did a long ski trip. I think I had 6 days worth of ski rentals. And this was just skis. I have my own boots and helmet, so I didn't need any other gear. But skis alone for 6 days worth of rentals, I think was 125 euros total. You're paying that easily for a single day in the U.S. So rentals, don't feel the need like you need to schlep your stuff all the way to Europe if you're coming to ski in Europe, because rentals are very affordable and scattered all through all the resorts.
And a lot of the places, like, they're kind of chains too. If you get like Skimium or whatever are the big name ones, like in France, if you're like binding blows out or something, there's like Skimium locations like all over the resort, so you can just like get it fixed, or like I think you traded yours in like for another pair. So like they're super flexible and very chill about it, which is nice because like you go into the US and they're actually nice skis too. Like you go to the US, a lot of these places are like shit skis. You're not comfortable in the boots, and it's just a little rugged, and it's super expensive. Like every time you've gotten rentals, they've been pretty good, like pretty decent skis and like good equipment.
Usually not going beyond last season's skis. I think they filter them out really, really quickly. And sometimes with beginner skis, I think those can get a little bit dated. But yeah, every time I've gotten more of like the performance or higher level skis, they haven't been more than last season's model.
And by the way, that price was for like the high end skis, not for like the cheap ones. So
Yeah.
like it's pretty impressive. I think where it can get expensive is when you do food and accommodations.
Yeah, but that can also be very affordable. So we've
Exactly.
always stayed in hotels, especially if you're going with a group or a family. There's like Airbnb situations and rentals like that all over every mountain. That's very affordable. In some of the more populated areas, definitely booking in advance is going to help you
Yeah.
find those lower costs. We've done a couple last minute ski trips, and I think that's what's driven the price
Yeah.
up. And then also, so in Europe, it's slightly different with the school system than it is in the US. So my experience with the UK, and it appears like it's the same in London, is kind of your grade school and high school kids. They go to school for 6 weeks and then have 1 or 2 weeks off. And they just continue that cycle and then have a full 6 week off in the summer. But if you end up going, they usually have a February break. And it's usually spans over about 3 weeks because each school system's slightly different. So you're looking at like those last like 3 weeks of February, maybe that first week into March. That's just very family oriented, and you're going to see higher prices. Unfortunately, that's usually the best conditions that time of year. But I think that definitely drives the prices. So if you go before that or after that, I think you're going to get better rates as well.
Agreed. Yeah. And probably less people on the mountain too.
Yeah.
Like it get the kids, it gets pretty busy with the kids. But I guess you're right. Like some of the hotels can be expensive. Some of the restaurants can be expensive. I think we got a place in Maribel, center of town, Maribel, in the center valley of the three valleys, Les Trois Vallées in France this year. 1 week, sleeps up to 10, 6,500 euros, which is not bad considering it was around that estimated, I think, which is not bad for if you get 10 people there for the entire week. We had 6, so it was a little bit more. It does cost a lot. Sometimes if you don't rent a car, you have to hire a van. And so if you fly into Geneva, you have to get a transfer. And there's a lot of companies that do it, but they take your bags, your skis, all that stuff, and then they just bus you up there. And most of the time if you have it set up, our friend had set it up for a round trip. So they'll come back and bring you back down to the airport when you want to go back into Geneva. But it's so cool. If you fly into Geneva, there's just so many different places that you can, like, there are a lot of places like like you can go into France from Geneva. You can go into Switzerland, obviously from Geneva into Zermatt. Aviaraz is only like an hour and 15 minutes out of Geneva Airport. Not the highest mountain, not the biggest mountain, but I guess it's pretty fun. They're known for their notorious trail there that's just all moguls called the Swiss Wall. But that's a good one. But yeah, so that's a little bit of a different experience too. Is like typically in the US, you go to Colorado, you get a rental car and you get a house and everybody's in the house. Like that can be the same here, but it doesn't necessarily need to be or have to be. I think another thing that's really different about it is like there's a lot of music and opera, and people will just like sunbathe. They'll take like these little sling chairs and for lunch just have like an hour and a half lunch in the sun listening to music. A lot of the restaurants and bars have DJs there spinning in the day, and then starting at like 3:45, 4 o'clock. I know the big chain that's in France, La Folie Douce, they have like huge parties, like all the time, like big parties. So that's, yeah, that can get pretty intense, but it's also really fun too. So it's like something you don't always see. I mean, yes, you'll go to a bar afterwards skiing in the US and it's just kind of like you might have a band in the lodge or something like that. This is like legit rager. Like sometimes people don't make it down the mountain safely because it gets pretty intense, but I think that's a really fun thing. And then opera and then going to dinner. Like, yeah, I think at Vail or something, maybe some of those nicer places you can get Michelin places, but like 500 feet away from our apartment in Maribel, we had a Lecrin We had Lachlan, which was a 1-star. Outside of Teen last winter, we had a 2-star. That was amazing. So there's also really, really good food in
Yeah,
wine.
there's good food off the mountain, but also on the
Yeah.
mountain. You'll have more of like sort of like your lodge style, like cafeteria places. Still way nicer than anything you'll see
Yeah.
in the US. And then you'll have definitely your more formal restaurants that a lot of times actually require reservations, especially during high season. So if you don't have a reservation, you pretty much have to go first thing when they open or end of the day because you won't get a table. But yeah, you're eating like when we skied in Italy, they have really good Italian food. Same thing with France. You're getting like true French food on the mountain, which is just really fun and different than kind of just like your burger and fries. You get like fine cuisine. That's exciting for us because it's not something we eat all the time.
I remember I was skiing in Teen last winter, and the lodge at the top of the restaurant at the top was at the bottom of a glacier that you could take a tram up to the top top of the glacier. But it was a 1-star Michelin restaurant at the mountaintop restaurant, and they had a gnocchi there that was just like a pasta bar, and you had the chefs right there, like what kind of pasta, I have gnocchi, what kind of sauce, bolognese, and they just make it, and it was like amazing, and it really wasn't all that much money. It was pretty incredible. But the food also in France, they're like, yeah, this milk is from down the road. Wine is from an orchard over there. Like the yogurt is from Savoie, which is like down in the area that you're from. So it's pretty incredible that the food is also so good, so local, and also not that expensive. So I think also switching away from food, one of the other things that's very interesting about Europe, they're not so keen on the equipment in the like. I feel like skiers in the US like look good and they look like they know what they're doing. People here like look like they ski in jeans and they look like that.
I'd say there's a
They
mix
don't
of
look that
that.
great.
I
I don't
mean,
know.
there's a mix of it. You see like these little kids on the ski teams coming cruising
That's
down
true.
mountains. They look super legit. I would say it's a really big mix, and it also depends where you go. Like kind of the bougier hotel resorts, like St. Moritz we went to. That's like kind of comparable to your Aspens of skiing in the U.S. Where you go down to the base of the mountain and it's just like designer after designer on storefront on storefront on storefront. So it definitely depends where you're skiing, the type of population
That's true.
you're gonna get.
St. Moritz is like insane. I've never seen anything like it. Like they have a place where you can have lunch on the ice in front of this hotel, and the servers are men in tuxedos and like cummerbunds with white gloves wearing ice skates delivering food to you. People like, I know when we were there, they had their cars flown in from freaking Kuwait and Bahrain. I saw Bahrain plates, Kuwait plates, Russia plates. Yeah, it was insane. Like jets flying right over you. We also went there during like an insane car show weekend, and it was great. Like seeing like $3 million like sports cars just go by you, like peeling out in the snow, is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But St. Moritz is insane. We had a terrible incident there. When you're traveling in Europe and you need to get a rental car, do not go for the cheap rental car. Just spend the extra money. Go with a name brand, Sixt, Enterprise, whatever. I tried to be cheap, go with a no name brand, and
Cost us more than
it ended up costing us more because they gave us like a lot of the new Audis, BMWs, Mercedes. You get a diesel, they have an element in it that you just, there's like a heating element where you don't have to, like your diesel doesn't freeze. We had like a Skoda or an Opel or something like that,
which is like a local European car, and it also ran on diesel, but we left it out in the parking lot overnight. A big cold front came in, and long story short, our car didn't start the next morning, or it did start, but we only made it like maybe half a mile before it wouldn't work anymore. And the diesel had frozen. We had messed up the car. We had to get it towed, and we had to pay a lot of money for them to defrost the diesel so we could get back to the airport the next day.
It was like almost 800 Swiss francs, which if you do the conversion, that's a lot of money. We should have just gotten the nicer car at the name brand place and then we wouldn't have had this issue. And it's kind of embarrassing. You're like at this super nice place. There's like all these super nice cars going by. And then there's like this like, you know, Swiss tow truck driver. Actually, it was pretty nice though. We called the police, said, hey, we need help. The police were like, oh, okay, just live, you know. And I was like, okay, this is going to be like an hour before this guy comes. It really was not that long. Like there was a tow truck driver, super nice, and was like, oh, I heard you got some issues. And so we did. I can't remember if we got a taxi. We actually got a taxi to the lift, but he took our car into the garage. And at the end of the day, we just skied down to the garage, walked a little bit, and we were at the resort or at the place, but they had to bleed all the diesel out of there that was frozen. And it's funny because, you know, typical Swiss guys, like knowing that everything in Switzerland is just perfect. That like, he's like, oh, where'd you get this diesel? Where'd you fill up last? We're like, oh, outside of Milan. He's like, oh, it's that Italian diesel. That's what did it.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. It's not great, but yeah, that was a little frustrating.
Yeah. So. For most of these ski resorts too, you're either flying into Geneva in Switzerland, Milan, Italy, or Munich in Germany. Pretty much you're within anywhere from an hour to 3 hour drive to a big ski resort from any of those airports.
Yeah. From a food perspective, just switching gears back to food a little bit, any like foods that you really like here at the ski resorts versus in the US?
There's kind of already talked about it before, but you just have like those fine dining options. And depending where you're going, like when you're in Austria, you get like some of that traditional Austrian food that's just very like hearty and kind of like comfort food. I can't tell you specifically what, but they just have like some good like stews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In Switzerland, you kind of get to have fun with like fondue on a mountain, which is really nice. Cool. And then France,
Raclette.
I don't think that really needs explaining. I think we all kind of know what French food is, but you just have like these nice, delicate dishes that are just delicious. And then my favorite's probably Italy because I just love Italian food where you got the fresh pastas and pizzas.
If you do like Northern Italy, a lot of people don't know like Northern Italy like borders with Austria, which is great because Austria uses a lot of like rabbit and deer and like bear and stuff like that. So they'll do like a bolognese, but with deer instead of beef. And they'll do like another like dish with rabbit or something rather than like chicken. So they really mix it up. It's like a certain people that had like this sauce, and you'll see it on menus in some of these places. They'll say like Leyden sauce or from the Leyden people. Apparently it's like this group of people from way back in the day that was kind of like when Northern Italy was like part of Switzerland and then Austria or whatever. It was just a mix of stuff. So it's not purely Italian. Like when you think of like, you know, spaghetti and pizza and stuff, it's really like heartier dishes. A lot of polenta. I remember that, a lot of polenta. But that Leyden people, they make the food is just really, really tasty. But yeah, like you were saying, areas to ski, we've really been like France, Italy, Switzerland, Austria. Some of the more not as popular places, and I don't know if it's because of just smaller mountains or what, but I know like a lot of good skiing or cool, very scenic skiing is in Norway because you're literally on mountains that just like go straight on these fjords, like right into the water, which is very picturesque. And then in Spain, northern Spain on the French border, they have the Pyrenees. So you can fly right into Barcelona or into Toulouse, France, and ski the Pyrenees. I think Baquera Beret is the big one in Spain. And then the tax haven in between France and Spain, which is Andorra. They have good skiing there too. Super, like they're starting to redo a lot of this stuff. So in Andorra, they have Grand Valira, and that is like super pretty. A lot of money being spent there and redoing that resort. So, and you can either fly into Barcelona or you can fly into Andorra. and fly and go right into Grand Valera. It's like 2 to 3 hours from either airport, and it's super, super pretty.
Also, all the Eastern European
Yeah.
countries we talked about, like Georgia, I think that's starting to be put on the map. Was it
Romania.
Romania? I want to say
Yeah.
Slovenia.
Bulgaria. These places in Eastern Europe that you never go to, you can like go all out and not spend any money.
Yeah. I know a lot of people I used to work with in London. That's where they would go on their ski trips.
Yeah.
And they seem really cool.
Yeah.
Might be something worth doing for a short ski trip next year.
And I know a lot of the places in France and Switzerland, if you really wanted to go all out and you wanted to do something very special and private, I know you can like fly into Geneva or Zurich, and then you can take a chopper into the Three Valleys or into Zermatt if you really wanted to, and just get there. You can bypass the traffic. We went when we were going to Maribel this winter. It typically takes 2.5 hours, maybe 3 at the most, and it was taking 5 because it was just so busy. But Three Valleys gets really busy because it's Courchevel, Maribel, Val Thorens, and if you go to Courchevel, it's pretty intense. It's like St. Moritz. They have an Amman there, which if you guys know hotels, Amman hotels are like the best in the world. There's only a few around. And they have a few other Las Les Neiges, which is another one. Their hotel shuttle is a Rolls-Royce Cullinan. I think they're at Amman. The shuttle is a Bentley Bentayga. These places are like intense. But what was your favorite place to ski?
For those of you who aren't familiar with cars, I'm not very familiar, but those are all just really high class, very expensive.
I think they know what Rolls-Royce and Bentleys are.
But I don't know. You can't assume.
True. But it's funny though, is you go to some of these places, St. Moritz, they have like Prada sponsoring all the chairlift towers. Courchevel, they have like Gucci on one chairlift. They have the Louis Vuitton yurt in the trail. And then they have the Montclair Grenoble chairlift going down to Courchevel 1600. So Courchevel also has like a little miniature airstrip right next to a restaurant, which is pretty sick. You can like having incredible French food and you just see like a chopper come down, drop someone off into a plane, and they just take off. It's pretty cool to see. So what's your favorite place to ski in Europe?
Definitely the Dolomites where we went a couple of years ago. It's a bunch of, I think it's multiple mountains or ski resorts within one. And you can actually do a full loop around all of the ski resorts.
No. That's only just like one portion of it, of the ski resorts.
Oh, well, I stand corrected. But yeah, that's definitely been my favorite. It might have just been the timing is a really spontaneous trip for me and something I needed at that time. But I thought there's just varied terrain. So it was very, anyone of any ski level could easily ski it. And it was challenging enough for more of the skilled skiers too. So you never got bored. There's just a lot of terrain to cover. So every day you were skiing something different.
Yeah, they have this like one program or set of trails called like the Celaranda. And you can go the green route or you can go the orange route, but it goes around this rock formation called Sella, and Ronda is around. So you did Celaranda, and we did it one day, and it's super fun because you're like taking a trail to a chairlift, which to another trail, and then by the end of it, and you track yourself, you're going all the way around this like mountain formation. But at the end of it, one time, we literally were like, we stopped for like a hot chocolate, and we were like, man, we should get back down to the bottom. And to ski all the way down to our hotel, if we didn't get the last chairlift up to the area that we needed to ski down to our hotel, I don't know what we would have done. We would have had to go to the road and get like a taxi, I think.
Yeah.
There was no other way. But Dolomites is really cool. Also, they had like Cortina, which they did the Olympics there. I think they're doing a lot of the Olympics in 2026 there because it's in Milan. So they're doing that. And the good thing about the Dolomites too is that if you really do get lost and you're really far from your destination, you can take a chopper, and I don't think it's actually all that expensive, to your like local landing pad near your hotel or whatever. There's just like chopper services everywhere on the mountain, just at restaurants. There's landing pads, like just all over the place. There's also like ski buses. So yeah, Dolomites is really cool. Kitzbühel in Austria, that was really fun this year. I like
Skivel almost a little
Skivel,
bit better.
Brixental. That's like ski world in English, but it's a little more family mountain, but it is huge. Like it's a big mountain. And it's pretty cool because like you go up high and you're in the snow, and by the time you're down in the parking lot, you're in the grass. But it's pretty cool. That's really fun. They also have the highest elevation, like over a gap in Europe. They have the well, that's actually no, that's at Kitzbühel. They have the 3S Bahn, and that's like the peak to peak at Whistler. Like planes fly underneath it, so that's a really good one. But I do like France just because of the food. Food in France is really good. Okay, so that's it for the skiing part. We got a fun snack this week. I don't really know how to pronounce it. I think it's called Romebrode. I got it from Oslo. We're gonna try it out. Let's see what it says. Maybe Google Translate will tell me how it's pronounced. Let's see. Romebrode, space bread. Okay.
Do we know any of the history of what this is, or is it just traditional to Norway? What are we about to eat?
Well, I think okay, there she is.
Romebrod.
Yeah, so Romebrode, I think, is a little crisp. And if I were to understand it, oh yeah, here we go. It's a sour cream bread, and in Norway, I believe you have it with your coffee in the morning.
Kind of like stroopwafel.
I think so. Yeah.
We should do stroopwafels one time. That's a traditional Dutch cookie.
Yes, it is. So it's I saw it when I was leaving Oslo, and I got duty free. I was getting all the snacks. I got her lox. I also got some other
Norwegian smoked salmon. If you guys haven't had it, go to Norway and get it because it's delicious.
And it's everywhere, and it's all really, really good. Traditional cookies originating from Norway, they're usually made with a combination of flour, sour cream, butter, cardamom, sugar, and salt.
Cardamom, interesting.
Yeah, the dough should be firm and left to chill. And it's left to chill in the fridge before it's sprinkled with sugar and rolled very thin. Yeah, and you think you just have it with coffee. So let's try it out.
Let's try it. Oh, it's actually really good. It kind of tastes like a cinnamon sugar cookie. A little bit thinner. I like that.
That is really good. It's like a ginger. I don't know. It's kind of
like a ginger snap. Yeah. I think that's a good comparison.
This is pretty good, actually.
So you can have some of this one. Yeah, really cool texture. It's like soft, but you get like a little bit of snap or crunch. So yeah, we'll kind of compare it to like a softer, thinner ginger snap.
This is pretty good, actually.
That's very interesting. Yeah, good find in Norway. Thank you.
All right. That was a snack of the week from Norway, Oslo, straight up.
That's pretty good.
Duty free. Phrase of the week, Gabriella. What's yours?
All right. I actually totally forgot about this because I let you take the lead on the podcast. So I just had to come up with it right now. But this is actually my favorite Dutch word. It is a vegetable and it's komkommer. That's just cucumber. And I love to eat komkommers, honestly, because I just know that. Why are you showing me?
And they have miniature komkommers here.
Yeah, I eat so many komkommers. I literally never even say the word cucumber anymore because I think komkommer is way more fun. So I hope you guys start calling cucumbers komkommers just like me for the rest of your lives.
Yeah, I think mine, because we're doing this on an evening, Goede avond, which means good evening.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I guess I don't really see people at night to tell them good evening.
Yeah.
I need more like good morning. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. All right. So that was the episode, the skiing episode. If you have any questions on the skiing, feel free to ask, leave comments, all that stuff. Also, I hope all my friends in the US are thinking about booking their trips over here so that we can go skiing this winter. I think it'll be really fun trying to get everybody to go to Italy and the Dolomites. So please, please, please book your flights to Munich or I think you can also fly into Venice.
And if you're not our friend, book your trip anyway, and we'll come say hi on the slopes.
For sure.
But thank you guys so much for listening. We're going to wrap this episode up. If you have any questions, concerns, thoughts, opinions, whatever it is, you guys know where to reach us. Just reach us at a couple of expats_podcast on Instagram or through our YouTube channel. And we will get back to you. Thanks for listening, guys.